Kevin Chaos. There is no magic. There is only magic. There is no magic. This is comparing the scientific to the unneeded spiritual language. There was a clip I saw in a cartoon called China, Illinois. And there's a guy teaching the theory of ancient aliens and astronauts and all of that stuff, having a hand in pyramids, Stonehenge, those kind of things. But another guy replaces him and says, trying to unbrainwash all these buffoons, he's like, I pose it to you. Isn't it possible that the humans, with absolutely no help all on their own, built the pyramids and all other megalithic, monolithic structures on Earth? I say yes. And everybody's all like asking questions, but. And he's like, but how? It's like, humans figured shit out. Look, if you were back then and you were rich and you had all these slaves, you'd probably start stacking. All you had was rocks. You'd probably start stacking shit up too. People figured it out. Don't judge mankind, all of mankind, on the limits of your current understandings. And I thought that was pretty smart. People figured shit out. But here's a fun fact. There were ice cream cone shaped little devices found in Africa, and a lot of people think that the origin of life is in Africa. And these are sort of like a mortar and pestle kind of thing, you know, the stone in this bowl with the stick that you grind up herbs and everything in. But like a monk singing bowl that can produce vibrations as you go along the edge. If the device was in the right shape and the right frequency, and for some reason the ancients really understood this technology, you could actually levitate small objects. So now imagine a whole bunch of people, hundreds, thousands of people with these devices. You'd be able to have a stronger amplitude for that wavelength and thus move bigger things. There was also something discovered about using vibration on a sled to be able to move huge monolithic devices, tons and tons of weight. By adding the vibration to the sled, you could push it with just 2 fingers and literally move a metric ton. So there were ways of doing the same thing for the even cuts, like adding vibration to something called a wire saw, a cord stretched across the rock that the vibration would etch into the rock and make a completely straight line, because the rope is taut and it's a straight fucking line. So yeah, I'd like to basically take some of the magic out of the magic, but it makes it that much more magical because it lets you understand that, yeah, all these things are real and you can do them, but takes away the unnecessary imagination of it all. Think of the Matrix. There is no spoon. Mind over matter. Self-programming. Firewalkers, right? They program themselves to be able to walk on hot coals and fire, but this works in 2 different ways as well. They build up calluses and stuff over time, building up endurance. The same thing for, say, David Blaine or a magician sticking a needle through their arm. They find a point where it's just going to be tissue and stuff that's not going to kill them. They do the same spot over and over and over. Over time, it builds up scar tissue to where they no longer feel pain in that spot if they pick the same spot again, or even bleed out of that spot for the same reason. So a lot of magic is simply knowing. And the firewalkers, here's another good example. This story comes from one of my ex-bosses when I did construction. He told me this story. He said, and I didn't plan on smoking at work, but I smoke weed. And he said it before we even talked about it. I don't know if he tells all employees, but he's like, I don't mind if you smoke weed or any of these things, but do it after work, not at work. Well, duh, right? But he told me this story one time during a lunch break about his friend doing LSD. Lysergic diethylamide. Magic. Alright, so LSD, he takes this mind-altering drug, right? And he's tripping with his friends around the fire, and it's my boss and his friend. And he says, out of nowhere, his friend just breaks the silence. I figured it out, dude. I figured it out. It's not hot. It's not hot. And he reaches his arm to the fire like nothing, and just moves his hand around completely fine. It's not hot. I've had my own experiences like this. It's remarkable, mind over matter, because it's not that the fire isn't hot, but you've created the situation for yourself where you're perceiving this is how it is. And that total, I don't know what they call it, euphoria on it or what, but the 100% of your belief is towards it. So it bypasses other sensors going off in your brain. You don't feel the heat. So, of course, by the next day, he's all blistered up and everything. But technically, he was right. he could turn off the perception of it being hot, and he did figure out how to stick his hand in the fire. So if you really needed to grab in there, get your cell phone or a kid or something real fast, now you know you can do it. Technically, fire's not hot. So you can learn to change your brain chemistry and your body temperature. There's a story about a Tibetan monk, and this was a practice they used to do where they weren't allowed to go inside the temple until after a wet towel that was thrown around them ended up bone sheer dry, and several feet of snow was melted around wherever they were meditating outside. So they had to successfully keep their mental shit together, keep from hyperventilating, passing out, whatever, reacting to the weather, and up their body temperature enough to be able to melt snow around them. Before I get into how that's done, I'm going to give you a couple quotes. Joe Rogan said, "I'm an idiot, dude. I don't know. What I do is just memorize a bunch of smart shit other people have already figured out." Socrates said, "The only knowledge that exists is in knowing that we know nothing." Einstein said, "It's not that I'm a genius. I just stayed with my problems longer." And Nikola Tesla said, "If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency, wavelength, and vibration." So pendulums, a weighted object on a string, and I meant to have one with me, but I don't, so I'm going to just keep going. Pendulums. They use your subconscious mind. It's said not to ask questions beyond your capability to know. You answer you. But it makes it easier to access those subconscious files in a very large and busy brain. Same with the Ouija board, right? Your mind has already looked at it. You've looked at it, right? It's taken a picture, right? Taken a picture of it in your mind. So you already know where A, B, C, D, etc. is. Now you're releasing the idea that you're too in control to be able to allow further movement and ideas to come to the surface. You're tapping into your subconscious mind, right? Also, another interesting fact is Ouija, means yes, yes. Oui, yes, German and French. Mudras, same thing, hand positions of power, right? So mudras are hand positions of power to psychologically anchor, to link two thoughts into the brain, and the more they associate with one another, the more quickly they interact with one another. So now we go memory and calmness. We've got dragon energy, right? Healing. I'm trying to do this all one-handed because I'm holding the cell phone. But pinching the pointer. We've seen people clasp two hands like this. Focus, right? Okay. A lot of people do this naturally, don't even realize, because they've naturally anchored these two gestures. Like when they're meditating and thoughtful, they tend to be fucking with this finger, whether the two indexes are touching each other from hand to hand, or they've learned it from meditation to do it like this for stillness. That's anchored. You do it enough times and it becomes like a little light switch to be able to immediately activate that. So here's how the melting of the snow and everything is done, and the raising of body temperature. So breath of fire. Breath of fire is an essentially fast rhythmic breath where on the exhale you get rid of all the last of the oxygen in your lungs. You pull your stomach in to push that extra little bit of air out. And when you're inhaling, just let it fill itself. You don't push it back out. It'll fill itself in like a bellow on a fire. And what this does is it speeds up your heart rate, your metabolism, burns fat. It gives you energy. It accelerates the mind and the blood pressure. So long, slow, deep breathing is taught in yoga. A long, slow, deep breath, even on the in and out. You're changing CO2 in your brain, all of this stuff. People have to do certain breath work techniques to be able to skydive, to be able to do deep sea diving, these sorts of things. Long, slow, deep breathing does the opposite. Slows metabolism, slows the heart rate, slows the mind. I once almost blew up one of them automatic blood pressure machines just wondering, it was a silly experiment to do, but I breathed as slow and as even as I could, and it brought my heart rate so much down, the machine kept trying to reset and do it, and then I was like, whoa, get this off me. So the magic was, and the point of this video, the magic is, as it always was. The witch doctor, the shaman, the magician, they know it and you do not. So there is no magic, because there is only magic. Magic is science.